one, and the other one is we keep on talking to them even in the water too. So we need to talk to them to make sure that they are very calm in nature, and whatever we give the commands, they'll start grabbing that and they'll follow what we are giving. So that's very important. So calming the victim is very important. If you get into panic, then we can't do anything. We can't do anything at all. So always remember, calm the victim first, then only you can do whatever you want to save that person. Okay? I think you got that answer. Any other? Any other? Okay, the people who is sitting in the back can come front forward a bit, because this is very important topics. That's a CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, which is very important. You need to look at this. If you're not looking at this, you won't understand anything at all. You need to look at this, so please come forward, get your chairs, accommodate. If you're not able to see, just stand and watch. But make sure you're coming forward. And I won't be using mic here because I'll be performing the CPR demo. So you need to be audible. So come forward. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation, which is the most significant and most effective technique used to save a life. Okay, so this is performed on a person who has stopped breathing. Remember, the person who has stopped breathing, not the person who is unconscious. It's not performed on the person who is unconscious, only the person who has stopped breathing. Okay, so we have 3 to 4 minutes before we to start this, because what happens after 3 to 4 minutes? Can anyone guess, or can anyone tell? Huh? The person dies. Hold a minute. That is after 3 to 4 minutes. After 3 to 4 minutes, what happens when the person has stopped breathing? Brain? Yes, that's good. The brain dies, start dying. So our brain is basically made of neurons. And these neurons are like lesser than the hair. What we have here, now, it's very thin, and it's survived only on the oxygen. So what does our heart do? It pumps blood, and it gives the whatever the nutrients, whatever the body needs. It is produced. It is given to the different parts of the body through blood. So we have 3 to 4 minutes before the brain dies, and that's what we are supposed to do before that. You know what happened last 2 years? In the whole world, something happened in the last 2 years. We had a COVID, right? And what was the main instrument which was required? Ventilators. Ventilators is the main instrument. Oxygen is like later on, because ventilators is the must first, and then oxygen is injected to the ventilator. So CPR acts as ventilator. Okay, so artificially we are pumping the heart from external, not from the internal. So what we do is, like, we give 30 chest compression, external chest compression, and we give 2 air, that is expired air resuscitation. So that is nothing but 2 breathing. So that's very important. Even a person who has stopped breathing for a longer time, you give him 2 breathing and start with the compression, the person, there is a chances of coming back again. So this, we are supposed to do 3 cycles. Why we are doing 3 cycles? 30 compression to breathing. That we are doing in a minute, 3 cycles. Why? Because normal heart rate is 70 to 200. 30 compressions into 3 becomes 90 compressions, and 2 breathing becomes 6 breathing in a minute. So that's the cycle what we are following here. So there are 5 main steps in CPR, that is 6 main steps: D, R, S, A, B, C. Doctors ABC. It's very important. Make a note of it. It's doctors ABC. DRS ABC. S is missing in the presentation, but it's still S is counted. DRS ABC. So D stands for danger, R stands for response, S stands for sending for an help, A stands for airway, B stands for breathing, and C stands for compression. I'll go again slowly. D for danger, R for response, S for sending for a help, either it might be emergency medical services or professional doctors, ambulance, police, or anything. A for airway, B for breathing, and C for compression. Okay, as I told, first we need to clear the danger. If there are crowd, make them clear. If there are anything, if a victim is lying on the road, take him to the safety. Okay, take him to the safety under the shade, not under the sun. All those things are considered for the recovery of the victim. After clearing the danger, next comes response, right? So response is checking, talking to them, whether the person is in active or passive, or how is his behavior. So the first thing is like you sit next to him and you talk to him. Don't go directly and push him. That's wrong. That's most of the people does the same. I have seen many people doing this. The first thing is like you talk to him. Hello, sir. Can you hear me? Sir, can you hear me? Hold my hand. See the facial expression. If there is no expression, then go for the shoulder tap, always. Sir, can you hear me, sir? You're not supposed to shake him. Only tap. Why? If he might be met with an accident, there might be a spinal injury. Always think the worst to protect the life. Think the worst to protect the life. So if he is having a spinal injury, if you start shaking him, the spine, it might dislocate, or there might be a problem which is going to be very serious. So just tap the shoulder, talk to him, and see the facial expression. If there is no facial expression, then send for the help. It's fine, it's fine. So then go for the send for the help. Call for the ambulance, call for the police. Why police? For our safety. Call police, send for the help, and next check with the airway. So everyone now stand. Everyone stand. And you will get to know the difference what happens when you are choking and when you are breathing. Okay? So now everyone look at your feet. Look at your feet. Don't bend your back. Just head down. Look at your feet and take 5 long breathe in. Breathe in, breathe out. 5 times. Look down. Don't lift your head. Okay, now everyone look at the ceiling and do the same. Which was difficult? Most of them, they get confused. It's easy both the way, right? Most of they have that. Even I had the same feeling, but it's actually looking down is very difficult. What happens is like our windpipe and the foot pipe is like this. The front is the windpipe, the back is the foot pipe. So what happens? Everyone sit. So when you look down, what happens is the windpipe and the foot pipe, they get like this. It's basically like bending a pipe. So what happens when you bend a pipe? The water flow reduces. So same thing happens in this. So the best way is to open the airway is by tilting the head back. Okay. So why we are clearing the airway? Why we are clearing the airway? Proper heart rate, no. Providing rescue breathing, yes. So whatever, if there are any foreign impurities, like might be a plastic, might be a leaf or any kind of a weeds going in, or paper or anything which is blocking the airway, that has to be cleared. So how we clear that? We support the neck, we support the hip, and we roll him to the side. Okay, we roll him to the side, and we can't pull the victim towards us, right? He will be heavy. So what we do is like we come forward and we support his spine. From here what we do, we take the pistol grip. This is called the pistol grip, and we place it on the chin here. Place it on the chin, and we clear the impurities, whatever is there. Sometimes what happens, a person met with an electric shock, his tongues roll back. Everyone, take your tongue tip, touch it on the top back, and try to breathe. Back. Take it back and try to breathe. Is it easy? It's very difficult. So what happens, the tongue, when it goes back, it's very difficult to breathe. So we need to check for that. If a tongue goes back, and if the airway is clear, the person starts vomiting. Okay? As soon as he vomits, don't put him back like this. Again he will choke. So hold him on the side, let him vomit, then again clear the airway. Done? Airway is cleared now. So next comes the breathing. So in this breathing, we check whether the person is breathing or not. Sometimes if a person vomits, he'll start breathing. If a person is not vomiting, what happens is like he is completely gone. So we need to check, because there will be some amount of air going in which can be listened, but we can't feel that. So we keep our ear in between nose and mouth, and we listen for the breathing. Okay? So if he is not breathing now, we start with the compression. If he is breathing, then put him on the recovery. Recovery is very simple. There are 7 steps in the recovery, which I'll show later. Now let's go to the compression. So how many compressions we are doing? In one cycle, how many compressions? How many breathings we are giving? Okay. So first we are giving 2 breathing. So closing the nostrils, opening the mouth, and if the chest rise, and see, check. Did it rise? Why? I have locked his airway. It's not open. So now airway is open. Now I'll start giving him the breath. That's 2. Okay. Now, where to give the compression? Is it on the stomach, abdomen, or on the chest, left or right? 1/4 of the rib, center, chest. Okay. How many of you know where your heart is? Center, left, right, slightly left. Okay. I have got many answers. They are telling on the right side, here, everywhere. So it's center. 70% is slightly to the left. Okay. So can you point it out? Place one finger on that exact place. One finger, only one finger. One finger on that exact place. Okay. Most of you are getting correct, but I'll tell you how to identify that place, okay? So there are 3 steps. There are 3 steps. If a person is wearing a shirt, formals, male or female, you have to take it off, then only you can perform CPR. Because of the buttons, we are not supposed to perform CPR on that. So the first step is, everyone can feel the V bone. The rib cage has a V. Okay? That is right above the diaphragm. So from there, place 4 fingers towards up. From the V bone, place 4 fingers towards up. So there is a V here. From here, place 4 fingers. Done? Okay? Now press harder. Feel the pain. Press hard. Press hard and feel the pain. Got it? Okay, that's one point. That's the first method. Second method is just imagine a line between the nipples and the sternum. Sternum is the strongest part in the chest, and draw a line between the nipples. So the nipples here and the sternum here. The coinciding point is the point where where the heart is. Okay. The third technique is place one hand under your armpit, completely under your armpit, and get it to the middle of the chest. Your heel should be on the chest. All the 3 points are coming on the same point. So that's where the heart is. So there you have to keep your dominant hand. Either it might be right or left. So you place your dominant hand on that and start giving 30 compressions. So you're not supposed to bend your elbows when you're giving compression, because the depth has to go 2 inches. For the adults, for us, it has to go 2 inches. For the kids, it has to go 1 inches. And for the infants, it has to go only half an inch. That is 1 centimeter, 1.5 centimeters. That's all. So for adults, it's 2 inches. So 2 inches is nothing but the size of a matchbox. 2 inches is nothing but size of a matchbox. As you can see here, 1.5 to 2 inches is size of a matchbox. So the compression, watch me. I'll show you the wrong method as well as the right method. Watch me, everyone, closely. So placing my hand on the point where I have to give the compression, and the first one is the wrong technique where it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20. It's going faster, but the depth is not going like what we are expected. So the second one is giving the compression from the shoulder. So what happens, we lock our knees, we lock our elbows here, we lock our hand, and we start giving compression from the shoulder. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30. After this, we give one more round of breathing, and then again we start compression, 30 compression. So when you're doing this, your command should be loud and clear. Can you tell me why? No. No. When I started counting, I was counting louder so that everyone used to hear. Why I'm doing this? Because, see, I'm tired right now. When you do this, giving 2 breaths and 30 compressions, you will be exhausted, completely exhausted. You can't save a life after that. At only max to max is like you can perform 3 cycles. 3 to 4 cycles max you can perform, not more than that. After that, what happens? What you can do after that? You give up? You can get one more person for that. So now we have more than 100 people. Now everyone knows how to perform this. So when I'm doing this, if you see me doing this, or if you hear the counts, what's going on, you can jump in and you can take over from there. So if I start at 7, you have to continue from 8. You can't start from 1 again. So what happens in a minute, we can give only 90, not more than 90, right? So you have to continue from there. So that's the reason whenever you are doing a rescue sequence, your command should be loud and clear, so that a person who knows all these rescue techniques, he can jump in with you and he can support you. Okay? So make sure your commands are loud and clear, because when I did this, personally, there was no one with this knowledge. So I had to do it for 3 to 4 cycles. Personally, I have done this and he was survived. Later, he was taken to the hospital and he was treated fine and he's good now. There was one more incident which happened, like we couldn't save him, but we tried our maximum, and he's gone by the time we reached the hospital. One more, in the swimming pool, the person who was trained in this, he gave compression for 45 minutes. 45 minutes he gave the compression, that too in the car. After there was no response, but he did not give up. He gave the compression for 45 minutes. After reaching a hospital in Bangalore, you know the traffic in Bangalore, and he was given an injection to the cardio, the heart. Adrenaline is the injection name, and he was given a defab, and he was rescued with that. So he is fine right now. Yeah, it's a defibrillation is nothing but giving an electric shock, which is bypassing the heart, and that's how we can save him. So can you tell me why that is done? You can settle down. Can you tell me why that is done? Why the electric shock is given to the heart? Neuron activation. Yes, that's good. So electric shock is given for the neural activation. That's because like the brain is controlled through the electrical signals, which is of a very less amps actually. So whenever the ECG is done, basically ECG is done based on the electric signals what the brain is getting collected. So just imagine how big our neuron system will be. It's like going 3 times the world, the whole earth. It goes like 3 times the earth. If I start ripping my neurons here, it goes like 3 times the whole world. So it's so tall, so big, so tall, and so huge. So that's how, just imagine if you stamp on a needle or a thorn or something on the toe, it suddenly reaches your brain. That is because of the electrical signals. So that's why they give the electric shock to bypass the heart, just to keep that active. So there is a technique for defibrillation. They give one shock and then they followed with the compression. Again, one cycle of a compression. Oxygen is not given over there. So one shock and one cycle of, that is 30 compressions followed. Then again, they do that 1 minute for 1 minute. That's three cycles they'll do. Then again, they go with the shock again. So this is how the CPR is performed. Now, everyone got to know what CPR is all about, right? Can you perform right now? Can you perform right now? Yes? Are you so confident to perform right now? I'm getting only less answers right now. All are sleepy. So this is very important. You can get it done in anywhere. Call the doctors, call the lifesavers like us. We have a certification courses happening in and around India. There are many organizations who are giving us certifications on CPR. So get yourself trained in that. It's very important. It's very, very important for the youths like us to get trained in life-saving skills, because we are getting every kind of knowledge in the society which we are using a bit, which is helpful for us to run a life, but saving a life in the society is very, very, very important, because we might lose our loved ones, we might lose our family members, because it's a heart paining. So your theme is like healing the broken world, and this COVID, the war which is happening in Ukraine and Russia, so this is like it's completely broken. And during COVID also, we lost many people who are loved ones, who might be our parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, many people, and it's heart-touching. So if you know what are the precautions can be taken during the COVID also, so even during the COVID, we can perform a CPR, but we need to have that barrier in the middle, like we have a mask for that. So you might have seen that oxygen pumping balloon with a mask, we get that. So we can use that and we can perform CPR on that. So there are many techniques which can be done to save a life during COVID also. So that can be done during the certification courses. So get enrolled for such kind of certification courses, be helpful for the society, try to save most of the humankind. So that's what I request humbly for you all people to do some life-saving skills when you go back to your places. So that's it. Thank you for listening to me. I hope this session was very helpful for you people.
On behalf of all of us, can I call Joshua Lokande from Meeraj YMCA, who asked the question, to just say a thank to Mr. Rohit.
Any questions on CPR?
So first of all, thank you for this amazing session. then we learned a lot of new things, things that we were totally unaware about. And your topic was something that we don't get to learn everywhere. So it was a different experience for us. And we hope to learn more from you in the coming future. And thank you so much.
You can get connected with me on the Instagram. If you want my contact details, you can collect from me. I'll give you all the any kind of contacts or any kind of information, knowledge on life-saving skills. You can get connected with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. A very useful lesson indeed. I'm sure I've learned it, and I'll share some another time when I learned, I had a second life. So and I learned a lot of things from this life-saving thing. Okay, friends, we're supposed to have a tea break, but we don't have time. We have to move on to a third very important. It's a hybrid meeting. There are international leaders who are joining us. They're already there. So we're going to straight away move on to the third session. So I apologies for not having a break, but tea is being served while you're so on to Koshi's.
Thank you, friends.
Check.
We are just
Check.
moving on.
Check.
This is one of the major session
Check.
which will be connecting throughout the world.
Check. Check. Check.
Virtual roundtable with global leaders. And
Check.
the topic will be climate justice for all. So today we have Ms. Sunita Suna, Executive Secretary, Asia Pacific Alliance of YMCAs from Hong Kong. Dear friends, please be quiet. See, the global leaders are already here with us. And they are watching from Geneva to Finland, Hong Kong, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. So, with us, Ms. Sunita Suna, Executive Secretary, chairing the session. Topic will be climate justice for all. And the leaders who is taking part, our own YMCA leader, Mr. Jose Verghese, who is joining from Weizmann International Head Office, Geneva. He is the present International Secretary General. Mr. Otto Vainio is from YMCA Finland, Executive Member of World Alliance of YMCAs. Mr. Tinu Johanna, and he will be joining shortly. He is an international cricketer. Mr. Dr. Janros Austin Jayalal, who is the National President of Indian Medical Association. And we have UniY, our students, YMCA students joining from YMCA Johor, Malaysia, YMCA Myanmar, and YMCA Bangladesh. So we, on behalf of Indian YMCA, UniY leaders across India, we welcome you all. Thank you for being with us. Over to you, Sunita ji. And I just want to introduce Sunita ji. Ms. Sunita Suna, she is the present Executive Secretary for Programs of the Asia and Pacific Alliance of YMCAs, based in Hong Kong. Prior to this, Sunita ji served as a Regional Executive of the World Student Christian Federation for the Asia Pacific region. She was also the program leader of the Identity, Diversity and Dialogue, a global program of the WCF. Sunita ji is involved in the ecumenical movement of students and youth in different capacities for almost 2 decades. She is from India and based in Hong Kong, where the Asia Pacific Alliance regional office is located. She has a master's degree in social work. Thank you, Sunita ji, for joining with us. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Koshi ji. Am I audible? Thank you. Let me say good day, everyone. And greetings from the Asia Pacific Alliance of YMCA. And thanks very much for the introductions and also the invitation to moderate this virtual roundtable with the global leaders on a very important topic, climate justice for all. I congratulate NCUY, the National Council of YMCAs of India, for organizing this very important program, especially to engage students and young people. Well, last year, the United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP26, was held in Glasgow. And some of us closely followed the conference as the YMCA participated in COP26. Concerns raised during the COP26 are that mostly fuel-dependent economy, unsustainable land use, industrial agriculture, and livestock rearing, compounded by our overconsumption and greed, have accelerated climate change. And this in turn has increased the frequency of extreme weather events, including hurricanes, sea level rise, erratic rainfalls, droughts, and wild. Hello?
Yeah, please continue. Sunita, please continue.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So all these are the threatening the lives and livelihood of many, especially among the world's poorest people, and destroying biodiversity. Well, the global north and the emerging economies are primarily responsible for the increased greenhouse gases. However, the brunt of climate change impacts are faced by the poorer countries and the poor, the indigenous people of more affluent countries. So besides climate change effects also biodiversity survivability through global species extinction, etc. Therefore, climate change has to be reviewed with a lens of creation justice. And climate change is also a matter of intergenerational justice. Children and coming generation will have to deal with the challenges that a different climate will bring. So climate change manifests its impact through the waters, the lack of it, or excessive presence. About one third of the world's population do not have access to safely managed water, and around two-thirds do not have access to safely managed sanitation facilities. Water is intrinsically related to poverty, food production, energy, industry, health, education, gender, peace building, etc. So it is well recognized that women are more affected by climate change, not only because of their greater dependence on natural resources and their obligations to collect water, food, and wood for fuel, women also tend to be less financially secure, with limited land ownership and limited access to finance, affecting their coping mechanism to impacts of climate change. Hence, the United Nations Commission on Status of Women 66, which is happening now, they decided to have their priority theme on achieving gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls in the context of climate change, environmental and disaster risk reduction policies and programs. So therefore, it's very clear that climate change doesn't impact everyone in the same way. The rich nations and rich people, through responsible for climate change, is the poor and other marginalized section of the society that bears the brunt. And therefore, climate change is an issue of justice. Today's discussion will consequently focus on climate justice for all. Well, in response to the climate action, the APAY, the Asia Pacific Alliance of YMCA, is also initiating and engaging youth and students through various programs and activities. And many programs are focused on environment and climate change, and there are many ongoing activities and programs such as Youth-Led Solutions, which is the Climate Action Fair, the Green Ambassadors Training, and the Green Team Network, or the e-learning facilities, what the APAY is also initiating and providing some sort of opportunity and platform, especially for our young people in the Asia Pacific region to be engaged and respond to the call to action for climate justice for all. Well, with these opening remarks, let me straight away go to introduce today's panelist. And we have an excellent panelist from diverse background for today's roundtable, where they will bring diverse perspective on the topic climate justice for all. Well, with these opening remarks, let me straight away go to introduce today's panelist. And we have an excellent panelist from diverse background for today's roundtable, where they will bring diverse perspective on the topic climate justice for all. Well, with these opening remarks, let me straight away go to introduce today's panelist. And we have an excellent panelist from diverse background for today's roundtable, where they will bring diverse perspective on the topic climate justice for all. Well, with these opening remarks, let me straight away go to introduce today's panelist. And we have an excellent panelist from diverse background for today's roundtable, where they will bring diverse perspective on the topic climate justice for all. Well, with these opening remarks, let me straight away go to introduce today's panelist. And we have an excellent panelist from diverse background for today's roundtable, where they will bring diverse perspective on the topic climate justice for all. Well, with these opening remarks, let me straight away go to introduce today's panelist. And we have an excellent panelist from diverse background for today's roundtable, where they will bring diverse perspective on the topic climate justice for all. The participants also will have an opportunity to ask questions, give comments, and give their input as well. So I hope that is also okay with our panelists as well as all the participants. So I'll introduce one by one. Otherwise, the introduction when I received from all the panelists, I was amazed with all the experiences and your profile. And if I introduce all of them together, probably it will be like 1 hour. So briefly, I will introduce, but I'll also request the organizers to send their full profile to all the participants so they will know much better for further communication with our panelists. And let me first introduce our first speaker, Mr. Uh, Jose Varghese. So Mr. Jose Varghese is the International Secretary General of Wiseman International, the international service club associated to the World YMCA. Joe started working with the YMCA at the age of 21 and has been serving the YMCA for the last 30 years in different roles in the YMCA movement. And he has worked in India, in the Asia Pacific region, as well as worldwide. Joe joined the YMCA Training Institute in Bangalore and studied for a postgraduate diploma in ecumenical youth work. He served as the Regional Development Secretary of the YMCA in the state of Kerala, then the Regional Secretary or the CEO of the YMCA Southwest India in 2007. Jose was also appointed as the Executive Secretary for Programs at the Asia and Pacific Alliance of YMCA based in Hong Kong. So before becoming the International Secretary General of the Wiseman International, Jose worked with the World YMCA to lead its global citizenship, leadership development, and resource mobilization work. After all these years at the YMCA, Jose is still full of enthusiasm, and as a partner in mission, he says, Wiseman International is looking forward to journeying together better future for all. Jose Varghese is from Kerala, India, and he studied mathematics. Let's welcome Mr. Jose Varghese in our midst.
First of all, let me thank you on the National YMCA of India for inviting me to the National Student Assembly. After several years, we are going to have the National Student Assembly, and I feel very proud being part of it. The whole my journey was with YMCA, so thanks Sunitha for telling that one, and I feel proud of being a part of YMCA. Let me go straight to the my presentation. So I prepared a small presentation about how do we see what perspective I want to share with you today. As Sunitha explained, one of my job with the World YMCA was, and also with the APAY was, working on a perspective called so. Sunitha has already explained what is climate justice, how it affects, who it's affect, and what we can do. So my presentation will be based on how can we behave in a world where climate justice become a critical issue, where I want to share this perspective of a global citizen. So how do we understand climate change and climate justice? From whose perspective we are looking at it? It is a threat to everyone's physical health, mental health, the air, the water, food, shelter, but there are some groups of people, socially and economically disadvantaged one, face greatest risk, which is a big concern for everyone. Climate change is not affecting everyone equally. There is disparity in doing that. And the second thing is about how do we see climate justice? It's about finding solutions to the climate crisis, not only to reduce emissions or protect the natural world, but that too in a way.
What you are doing? You go there. You go there.
Has to respond to these issues. So all depends on starting with the mindset. What mindset you have when you hear about climate change or climate justice. Mahatma Gandhi made a beautiful statement. Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's needs, but not every man's greed. The whole issue of climate change and climate issues is centered on human greed. If everyone is behaving without greed in this world and the careful usage of the natural resources, there won't be any issue with that. So that means the climate change is something that we can make, that is not the one who we cannot change. It can change, it can make changes to the climate thing through our behavior and actions. People have generally three levels of minds when you hear the climate issues. One is a mindset of subject. There are millions of people who are just feel that, oh, I am subject to this issue. Climate justice, climate change is around us, and I cannot do anything, and I live with it. But there are people think that it's my country, and I, as a citizen, I will respond. I will consider about my country to protect my country and my community. But there are other perspectives that this can be solved only by collective actions to act in a global stage, which is the mindset of a global citizen, where they think that this issue is not just my issue, the issues that are affecting my behavior is affecting the lives of the other people. If somebody is making a bad behavior or wrong behavior in Europe or in the Western world that affect the poor countries. And even our own people, community, with what we do is affecting other people. And that is a new levels of mindset as a global citizen. So as students, I just want to give a little theory of a perspective. How do we see the global citizenship in the context of a new perspective? The citizenship has 4 elements. We have the rights, duties, we have the membership, we have the participation. From a citizen perspective, right is just seen as a nation-state citizenship. My rights in my community, my country. My duty is they define themselves as the national interest. If I am a citizen of India, I will strive for my national interest. My membership is my political state. That's my concern is about my political state. My participation is the liberal democracy within the framework. But when you see a big global perspective, when you achieve the mindset of a global citizen, the rights is not just nation-state rights, but human rights. So when I talk about rights, it's not just talking about my rights, the rights of the human being. The duty is not just to my country, but to the whole environment. That we call it as environmentalism. So my duty is not just to protect my country, but the whole earth. The membership is not my political state, but the multicultural society. It's beyond my community, beyond my state. And that's where I should feel that mindset. The participation is not in the liberal democracy, but in the information society. So when people have this mindset of human rights, environmentalism, being in the multicultural society, being engaged, being participated in the information society, a change is begin in their life, in their attitude, in their approach to address the issues. So when that mindset is achieved, they are becoming a global citizen. They are aware of the global realities, trends, and process. I just want to ask the young friends here today, how many of you are interested in climate crisis that happening around the world? How many of you are watching those newses and how many of you are trying to go a little into deep and why? And a global citizen is outraged by social injustice and human rights violations. And how many of you are concerned on protecting the earth? And as a global citizen, they're trying to practice and promoting sustainable lifestyle and empathy, respecting human values and ethics, recognizing diversity, and most important, taking action for change. The young generation has to act like in a globalized world. If you want to make a change in your life and life in this world, our behavior and our mindset should be a mindset of a global citizen. As Sunita introduced me, I work with the Weizmann International. Our motto of the organization is to acknowledge the duty that accompanies every right. Judge Paul William Alexander was founder. 100 years ago, the Weizmann International was founded, and he gave this motto, to give our members and our associates to tell that the duty comes first, and then only talk. Nowadays, the people have a tendency that I always talk about my rights, but if you want to enjoy the rights to live in this world, you have to perform your duty. And that is what the Weizmann International trying to achieve through our members. And then in order to do this one, for a climate thing, the Weizmann has made a position that we don't just talk about, we have to demonstrate how we can do. After a 5 years exercise in 2016, Weizmann International became a carbon neutral organization. We did full study on how much our programs, our members travel, our leaders travel, our activities are adversely affecting or contributing to the carbon emissions. We calculated that one and we find a way to compensate that when we offset all our carbon emissions with the renewable energy projects ever since 2016 with several YMCA projects around the world. And that way we can proudly say that every member of our organization proudly says that by being a member of the Wiseman, you are part of a carbon neutral organization. We also run several projects around the world. One of our prominent projects is a Week for Waste. Our volunteers, young and the older, or intergenerational organization, we have initiated the World Cleanup Project. And every year, 2 times in a year, we conduct Week for Waste project. And our members goes to the beaches and our public places, they clean the place and to make the world more cleaner and greener. And that also been added value into this mission. We support several solar energy projects that generate renewable energy and that offset our carbon emissions. So finally, I want my young friends to think, to behave, to act as a global citizen. And how can you do that? What mindset, what change you happen in your life? If the hunger, the feelings of starving due to climate change become your hunger of feeling, if the terror of the tortured become your terror, if the fear of the internally displaced people due to climate change become your fear, if the anger of the oppressed become your anger, if the poor rise up and march for climate justice and you express your solidarity and march with them, then I will proudly call you as global citizen. And I wish that all the participants today will have a changed mindset. When you go back to your home, go back to your new journey, you will act and behave as a global citizen. That will make a transformative change in your life and the life in this world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jose, for helping us to understand from a global citizen perspective. I think this is something we should be challenged, and how we can take up this action. Probably, I think we need to discuss more about it. Well, at the end, we all will come back for Q&A, more input, more clarifications from all our panelists. So I would also like to request you, like if you have any questions and all, please keep on typing on the chat box or keep the question with you so immediately you can ask when we will open the floor for Q&A. So there is little bit change. Some of our friends need to leave, it seems. That's what I received a message from Kosizi. And we also like to thank Reverend Thomas George, the founder, president, Johor YMCA Malaysia, is also present here. So we would also like to welcome you, sir. Yes. So maybe I would like to invite Reverend Thomas George now to say a few words before they leave. They have some other commitment, it seems, so they have to leave now. So can I invite Reverend Thomas George first?
To be part of this great event, and I thank
we cannot hear you clearly.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear?
Yes, this is better.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I'm very glad to be part of this great event. And I thank Dr. Goshu Vaidwan for inviting us to this program. And we have some other training program that's going on, so we are unable to take part in the whole session. I would like to introduce the Johor YMCA and our activities to the community who is gathered here, and especially to the UniY, the uni students who are gathering today. and also just to inform you about our activities. And I would like to invite our uni members to introduce the Johor Y to all of you. They will do the presentation now. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello. Sorry, can you put me on screen? Just as to relate it to
Hello, are we audible?
No, we cannot hear.
Phyllis,
Yes.
hang on.
sorry for that. I just realized that if you share computer audio, you can't unmute yourself. Anyhow, coming back to our topic for today, I would like to introduce to you a perspective, Malaysian perspective on climate change and also YMCA's way forward in this criteria. And of course, along in the process, the activities and foundations of which YMCA Johor initiates its activities. First off, allow me to pass this floor to my associate, Ms. Faber, to talk about the Malaysian students and other NGOs of which perspective is provided as to interest rates. Over to you, Ms. Faber.
Okay. I hope I'm audible. And so I'll just start off with, as you can see on the screen, Malaysia is ranked last for climate change category. It also means that we are least worried about the issue. I'm not going to defend this or I'm not going to support this, but to be honest, Malaysia, we do enjoy a consistent weather where a full-on 4 seasons are very alien to us. So we don't really feel the effects of climate change. No, there's no direct effect to us where because we live at an equator region, and the climate change is very stubborn, and where the only thing that we actually face is either it's too hot or it goes cold up to 26 degrees Celsius. That's the coldest it will ever go. And right, so when we talk about why a possibility of why climate change is least cared about Malaysians, least cared topic for Malaysians is because most likely, I'm talking based on studies, yeah, and most Malaysians don't actually think that it is something to worry about because mainly they don't really understand what is it in the first place. And because we haven't really experienced the effects of major climate change until recently, where we had a very horrible flood where I think about 23, 24 people were even killed in that, have they lost their lives to that flood. And to further talk about this, there were studies conducted on this, and once as I was reading it, I also understood that many of them have said that climate change in Malaysia is not something that really that they care about because it doesn't affect them, and also the fact that they are more worried about COVID, about dying from COVID rather than the heat. So they don't really. There is an issue of not understanding what climate change is, or like I believe Mr. Joes mentioned earlier about global involvement. That has not been achieved in Malaysia yet. And also this is also due to the lack of understanding. And if we speak in terms of students here. I myself am a student, and to be honest, I haven't really explored into climate change as well until now. And uh, yeah, so this is an issue that we have here as students. We are not really exposed to this kind of climate change programs or talks or activities. Yeah, now I'll pass it on to Phyllis to give the presentation on the rest.
Thank you, Monsieur. All right. Again, as Ms. Feva had already mentioned, of um, the interest rates of the citizens of Malaysia in regards to climate change and climate justice. Here we have other information on Malaysia's prospect of climate change, where Malaysia is the fourth largest emitter of greenhouse gases in ASEAN, behind Indonesia, Vietnam, and Thailand. So I believe you can read the slides. It's I do not have to read it again. So moving forward to the real scenario of what how climate change can impact Malaysia is where there is agricultural dysfunction, increased flood intensity, of which we only started to see this effect last year, because last year was the first time flood had come after 70 plus years in Malaysia. And again, increased incidence of diseases. Moving forward would be the efforts and vision that Malaysia has, and also YMCA in Malaysia as general
You
have.
have that file clip.
Sorry, allow me to continue. The efforts of Malaysia, the governmental aspect to it is to reduce carbon footprint 45% by 2030. Of course, this is not much, but every progress is a progress. And therefore also integrating urban farming opportunities in the urban areas of Malaysia. And of course, again, there is T-Labs collaboration that is looked at under YMCA Johor, of which where urban farming, more specifically focused on hydroponic farming, is introduced to students and schools and even residential areas, so that there is an awareness of climate change and awareness of the modular approach to cater to these changes that drastically affect the environment and also human lives in the future. All right, so what can YMCAs do across the world for a climate change, for the situation of climate change, and also catering to climate justice? Of course, when we want to define what climate justice is the responsibilities and holding each parties accountable for their actions. And therefore, with your respective ideas and with your respective permission, it ought to be our sincere need to collaborate with each other from across different societies, as of course I believe that each of the countries that we are representing would have a different perspective to climate change, and therefore by providing a different perspective to climate change and also having this motivation being prospected to the ideas, especially for growing teens, it would be a necessary and an important aspect onto providing and to creating awareness in the Y network. Especially again, one more main focus would be in YMCA Johor also would be hands-on training programs that are catered to create an environment of learning with experience in catering to not like not 100% solving the issues of climate change, but at least 0.01% would even do as to provide and promote this awareness and to be the change we want to see. And with that, I believe that's it from us. And also to say that we would love and we would wish that each YMCAs from across the world would look into collaboration with every YMCAs to provide perspectives from different countries so that there can be much of ideas that are integrated for the provision of uh, of this awareness to each individuals and societies. With that, I also would like to introduce what YMCA Johor does, because YMCA Johor has 8 different departments, of which we cater to the communities, of which few of them which are included are the Department of Spiritual and Moral Emphasis, the Department of Guidance and Counseling, the Department of Social Responsibility, and so on and so forth. And therefore, by having programs such as these and collaborations, what we are doing is we are catering to the community's needs rather than the community's wants. And similar to that, what is being done now, of which the training session, uh, of which why we have to leave early, is the training session that is being catered to the society in Malaysia is a training on psychological first aid, of which the society and communities are equipped with skill and knowledge on what psychological first aid is and to provide the specific helping skills to provide psychological first aid to victims of a disaster. And with that, I thank each and every one of you, especially our panelists and also moderator for today's session. And most thank you to the organizers of today's session for inviting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Phyllis Faber and Reverend Thomas George for sharing the climate change or the concerns from the perspective of Malaysia. And also, I think you as young people raise a very important concern that how YMCA can create awareness among young people about climate change or climate justice, what we are talking about. That will be really helpful for NCY India, but also APAY, how better we can integrate and involve more young people on this process. So thank you very much. We are going to miss you that you will be leaving now, but if you have anything, any questions or clarifications, please leave them on the chat box. Hopefully some of our panelists will respond to that, but later on also you can contact us. So once again, thank you. And let's give them a round of applause. The Zoom clap we can give also, or the silent clap. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too have a good day and good training. Thank you. Well, let's go to listen from our next panelist. And we are happy to have Mr. Otto Venio. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. And Otto is currently working at the Finnish government's innovation funding agency, Business Finland. And he joined the YMCA through basketball at 9 years old. Wow. He later gained youth leadership positions and opportunities at the local level. First in basketball as a coach through 15 to 20 years, and then in other sectors representing his hometown YMCA in a national Finn YMCA program aiming to develop young YMCA activists into leadership position. So through the Finn YMCA program, he got a perspective on different sectors and programs in the European and World YMCA context. He then became a member of the executive committee of the World YMCA in 2014 at 19 years old. He's now serving the second term as an executive committee member. Otto also has lived in Delhi in India from April 2018 until April 2019, working with Business Finland Embassy of Finland to India. Otto is still very active at the local YMCA and he plays basketball at his local YMCA 4 days a week, it seems. That's wonderful. Otto has a master's degree in business administration. So let's welcome Otto Vanio with a round of applause, the Zoom applause or the silent applause. Welcome, Otto, and now it's up to you.
Thank you, Sunita ji. Thank you very much, Kaushi ji. मेरा नाम ओत्तो है और मैं आपका स्वागत है.
Wow.
I'm very glad being here. and it's a great opportunity to be part of this panel discussion. I will speak to you from I would say, not from the position as Sunita ji presented myself. I am very glad and humbled by those opportunities I have received despite my young age, but rather I would speak to you from a perspective of a young person and from the perspective of a global citizen, as Joshi presented in his great speech. So thank you very much for that. Um, Perhaps from a European perspective, first of all, the situation in Europe overall has changed dramatically over the last month, so to say. We have seen the war entering, concretely entering the European continent just 3 weeks back when Russia attacked Ukraine. This is the first war taking place in the continent of Europe over the span of 30 years or so, and we're following the news really really aggressively right now, trying to figure out what is happening. And thus far, almost 10% of the Ukrainian people have fled the country. So people are really bound to escape, and homes are driven down, hospitals are being brought down. The electricity is not functioning in many of the cities, in 15 of which the YMCA in Ukraine works as well. We do not only feel sorry for the Ukrainian people, but also the regular citizens. The atrocities of the Putin administration is causing to not only the Ukrainian people who are suffering immediate crisis as of now, but also the people in the YMCA's and the local citizens in Russia and Belarus, which has become a counterpart of Russia in these war atrocities. So in Europe overall, we're really sorry and really devastated by the atrocities taking place in our continent. Unfortunately, that is not the only war taking place in the world right now. We acknowledge the atrocities many governments are undertaking in different countries, all the way from Myanmar, closer to the ASEAN countries, all the way to Syria, to Lebanon, where the economic crisis is happening as well. The interesting thing over here is, if you look at these countries, despite the terrible circumstances, the YMCA keeps fighting and keeps going forward and keeps thriving in such communities, helping the local people to survive, despite the terrible, terrible circumstances. What we're seeing right now, why I took the example of war at first, is because we're actually we're currently seeing another type of war in which there are no bilateral or multilateral wars between different nations, but in fact what is happening right now is we're actually facing a war wherein we, all of us, the people of the world, are actually fighting the battlefield itself. We have made our world, the earth, a battlefield, which is now rising in temperature, losing its flora and fauna, and furthermore, is facing trouble in being able to maintain what we have at current. This is trouble we're facing right now. Our environment is not capable of maintaining the activities we wish to maintain as a society. So the built environment, the built circumstances of the human population, they're too much. Simple as that. This is too much for our world right now. On the brink of war in Ukraine, and this is something that did not reach adequate noting or adequate attention in Europe, the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change released its sixth report scientific report on the climate change, which shows that climate change is grave and mounting threat to our well-being and a healthy planet. What it really highlighted is that our actions today will shape how people adapt and nature responds to increasing climate risks. That being said, the world faces unavoidable multiple climate hazards over the next 2 decades, with global warming, should that be over 1.5 degrees Celsius. Even temporarily exceeding this warming level that would result in additional severe impacts, which we are already seeing around the world. I will try to share my screen to give an example. Just 1 minute, right here, perhaps. This is an example from India. Can you see my screen now? I hope it is visible. Yes. Okay. I just saw it, so it is visible. Yes. So this is the Lake Lonar. What it looks like before. So that would be only a span of 3 weeks' time in 2020. So the lake used to be green. Afterwards, sulfates and whatnot spanned onto the water. It turned red. So we can see the obvious change over here. And that's not the only example. From my country, Finland, which is part of where we actually have around 10% of the entire area covered by the Arctic, covered by land areas beyond the Arctic Circle. Just 2 years back, many people know Finland as the country trying to market itself with Santa Claus, with the reindeer and whatnot. Like all these winter wonders and whatnot. But actually, just 2 years back, during the winter time, 15,000 reindeer were killed because of the extreme snow, the snowfall we faced in northern Finland in Lapland. So, in fact, our flora and fauna is suffering. We're part of the Arctic hemisphere, and we're therein our country is facing a lot of trouble. So what I'm trying to depict here is that it's not only concerning India, it's not only concerning the South Asian countries or Sri Lanka or the Maldives, where wherein it has been mostly reported as of now. And but what I mean by this is the perspective our dear friends from YMCA Johor in Malaysia just depicted is very important as well from the World YMCA perspective. The World YMCA in its Vision 2030 pledges to become a climate neutral movement. What we also endeavor for through policies and grassroots solutions as well, try what we aim to achieve through community interaction and engagement with young people across the world. We endeavor to support a just transition to a green economy, wherein we would have local solutions that would, from the ground up, build our opportunity to understand the battlefield we're facing right now is, in fact, the world itself we live in, the world upon which all the life in the world is built. We should not treat it as a battlefield, but rather understand that the Mother Earth is suffering in those terms. When it comes to the environment and our consumption habits, coming from the Western world, coming from Europe, coming from Finland especially, overconsumption and indulgence are merely greed. We're used to these things we don't even understand in our daily lives. We take them for granted. But for the time being, as our dear friends from YMCA Malaysia put it, it's not a matter of what I have as opposed to what other people or my neighbors or my brothers and sisters and whatnot have. It's a matter of what the world can offer to us, and we should really understand it and take this into account. What Joss in his speech mentioned about the global citizen perspective, we should really keep that in mind and really understand that all of us, irrespective of whether the water is changing its color or whether the reindeers are being killed through the battlefront we're facing, that being the earth becoming less adaptive and capable of maintaining our livelihoods, we should really understand that the local actions matter as well. You young people are really able to do this. We actually have the opportunity. And what the IPCC report I just referred to also recommends is taking concrete actions as we can see from all the examples in this presentation thus far, as Jussie said, it's a matter of taking action, which gratefully the Wise Men International has done for several years already, becoming a climate neutral movement, and what our local YMCAs are doing as well through local actions. Those are really matters for which we can affect and we can make people more aware of such matters. Because what we really need to do now is act, become more responsible, and understand that we don't want a war with the battlefront itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Atto, and thanks also for sharing about what's happening right now in Ukraine. We all stand in solidarity for the people, those who are affected by this unfold war. Um, but also, I think this is also giving us to reflect how war also is a major issue of what we are facing today on climate change. That's adding on to it. So that is also something within YMCA, we must reflect upon it also. Thank you very much also for sharing like what's happening in Finland, because many of us might not be aware of like how the whole world is affected, particularly in specific countries. And also, I think one point you raised about the green, promoting the green economy, which is already, I think, within YMCA, we have started discussing and articulating about it. So probably we will have more time to discuss about it. So once again, thank you very much for your presentation. And we will have time for some questions and answer as well.
Thank you very much, Dhanyavad.
Thank you. Well, let's now move to our next panelist, and he's Dr. John Rose Austin Jailal. And when I saw his CV or his profile, I didn't know how to compile this one because he has so much experiences and it's like so many pages. So I would really suggest our organizers to send the original one to our participants so they will also understand. But very briefly, I will highlight some of his major work and what he is doing. So Dr. Jailal is the national president of Indian Medical Association and the professor of surgery, Trinalveli Medical College. And some of his current responsibilities are, he's the district governor, Wise Men International Organization, national head of Indian Medical Association, UNESCO Bioethics at Haifa. He's also the Vice President, Commonwealth Medical Association, London, UK, member, Board of Students, the T.N. Dr. MGR Medical University, honorary professor in Academy of Medical Specialty, and also a national faculty of Indian Association of Gastrointestinal Endoscopic Surgery. There are so many other things are there. I'm not going to read now, but he's also member of many national and international organizations and held different positions in Indian Medical Association and other international institutions and organizations. He also received many awards and appreciation, and some are the Best Doctor Award from the Kanyakumari District Collector, Best Doctor Award from Government of Tamil Nadu, Best Surgeon Award for doing maximum surgery for HIV patients in Kanyakumari District, and Paul Harrison Fellow of Rotary and Paul William Alexander Fellow of Wise Men. And some of Dr. Jailal's publications are, he has written textbook of Family Medicine Indexed International Edition. He has done 30 research articles in index journals. Also, he is a member in the editorial board in 5 international journals. So there are many more to share about him. A lot of experience he is bringing, and we are very much looking forward to hear from you, Dr. Jailal. Let's welcome him.
Thank you, ma'am, for your introduction. First of all, I just apologize for speaking from the car because I had to travel at this moment. So thank you very much for giving this opportunity to be with you, this very high forward intellectual and the international leaders. I'm so happy that today that OMCA is able to organize this meet for the young youth of this country and to discuss about a very important and a very important burning issue on the climate change. I will be happy this moment which the YMCA has started and Wiseman is sitting in. Definitely go forward and take a positive impact in the society. As introduced, I have a very humble relationship with my YMCA because I hail from one of the oldest YMCA places. I am Martandam from the Tamil Nadu Kanyakumari district. I'm very close to that and is a part of that. And also I am serving in Wiseman International. Apart from that, I am being with the Indian Medical Association as the national president, which has nearly 4 lakh doctors as a member. So I would like to speak something which related to the climate justice. It's related to the field of medicine or the field of healthcare delivery, which we are now facing today. As a youth which is participating, we all have sometimes in the life or someone in the house of experience fever or temperature rising us. When we say normally a human being will have the temperature of 38.4 degrees centigrade, and if your temperature is rising by 1 degree centigrade, it becomes 39.4, then we say that this fellow is having fever, and automatically either he has to go to a doctor or he take some native medicine, and he has to cut the class. He will not be able to take his routine work. So much of calamity, so much of problem happens in every family when one of the member in the house is getting a fever. It is not only the person who is getting the fever is getting affected, but the whole, if the brother is getting the fever, the children will not be there. Especially we have gone through this in the COVID. It has just mainly presented with the fever. And even to the extent that we need to isolate them separately, not able to contact, and so much issues having. Just imagine if that is going to be the situation, if one person in the family is getting that fever, if that entire globe in which we are living, if its temperature is rising by 1 degree, and if the globe is getting the fever, what kind of the impact it is going to put in the society as a whole, as an individually, and how much they are going to be affected. So that is exactly what we are now talking today. There are various means and ways by which that the temperature of the globe in which we are living, the motherland in which we are living, is rising every day. When the temperature is rising, as normally when we have a temperature, we will have certain demand, we will take some remedial measures. And it is mandatorily now required at the part of us to take the remedial measures to see to that whether we will be able to reduce the temperature. Now the Paris Agreement, we all of us know that, which says at least be careful, your temperature is not rising more than 1.5 degrees centigrade. And we know for sure that we will not be able to bring back to the original temperature, but at least we will try to see to that the temperature needs to be bringing down. As very well explained by our Jose Ferguson, that we all know for sure, it is not that the people who in the causative or the responsible for this climate change are responsible for this global warming are affected more, or if the people who are affected more are not equally placed in the position that how best they will be get the treatment. We all know, if I as a doctor, if I have a fever, it is very easy for me to treat my fever because I know the medicine, I have an opportunity, I can get it. But if it is from the rural area person is getting the fever, he needs to travel to a doctor, he needs to identify a doctor, he has to have some money to take care of that. But there is inequality placing it that even in the routine life. So that is what exactly happening today, that person who is from the affordable countries where the human index is high, their wealth is high, their opportunity is high, their monetary power are high, they are mainly causing the rise of temperature. They also have the effort to treat it properly. But the people who are in the lower economic status, more than 50% of the power at the rural areas, they are not responsible for this climate change. In no way they are contributing for that, but exactly the opposite, the brunt of attack, the problem of it, they are facing more. Not only that, when they are facing, they will not be able to take remedial steps or adaptive steps. There's one big example we always quote. One is that is Netherlands and the Bangladesh. Both are now almost facing a equal chance of disaster by the glacier warming and the sea water level rising. But definitely the Netherlands will be able to face it much better than Bangladesh because of the advance in position and the economy which is happening there. So this inequality which is presenting in this healthcare, the global, is a challenge for every one of us. Today, ethics is a big word which we are very much interested, especially as a relation to the UNESCO. It started talking this bioethics which related to our healthcare in a very big way, and everywhere they are talking on that issue. That one of the most important thing is the prima non nocere, that is do no harm. When whatever the better we do, whatever the treatment which we are doing, we should not put the harm to other people. So this is the responsibility. Do no harm. The responsibility as a bioethical concern has to be incorporated into the minds of the people, and that is the one big challenge we are facing there. So much efforts are taking place, and it is many times we may not be giving interested on that, but when you have look into that, the leaders like YMCA, YMCAs, and various other Rotary International and WHO, and so much of people are taking so much effort to see that, and something should be done on the climate change, and some responsibility the burden should be equally shared. So when we talk about the climate justice, we talk about the just division, the fair sharing, and equitable distribution, both the benefit and the burden of the climate change, and also the responsibility to overcome that. In both the things, whether you are having the benefit of it or the burden of it, or whether you are going to take the responsibility to cater to the needs of this, both shall be equitably shared. It should be fair in distribution, and the sharing that be equal. So there now a consensus has been created, especially in the COP26 they have meet. 196 countries has come together. And more than 50 countries has now signed an agreement saying that what are the steps that they are going to do. But at this point, I just want to share what's the healthcare delivery system as a hospital, as a doctor, and what we are going to do for that the combating this climate injustice is taking place in this country. If you do overall take part in the gas emission, the green gas emission, or the ozone depletion, and what we are contributing as a healthcare delivery system, nearly 5.5% is contributing. If you are overall, all industries put together, health industry is costing nearly 1/5 of the damage which is happening by the issues combating with the healthcare institution. Almost the carbon footprint we are producing is almost 17% of the national carbon footprints are produced from the healthcare industry. So now, as a healthcare personnel, as a doctors, as our association, Indian Medical Association, we are making it one of the very big topic for discussion in all our meetings. How best the hospitals, doctors, and the healthcare delivery system people providing will be able to do something on reducing this carbon footprint, what they are producing, or how will be able to eliminate the gas, the green gases which have been created, or how best they will be integrating the part of the carbon less the healthcare delivery system. That is one of the major issues. One issue which we very tactically we have implemented, supported, and to some extent we are also succeeded is the biomedical waste management. What is every hospital when the patient comes, there is a lot of biomedical things are being produced, and there was an era, if you say almost even 15 to 20 years back, if you go near in any hospital, you will see plenty of needles, plenty of syringes will be there, all the human waste materials will be thrown around there. There was no place and no waste, but how it has been eliminated or been destroyed. And even sometimes you see in front of the hospitals, all this will be dumped together and they start burning, and so much of the gas is coming out of that. So now to some extent, at least in India, that is, we will be able to say 60 to 70% of the hospital has full equipped biomedical waste segregation at source, and proper ways of incineration and disposal of the biomedical waste is being taking place in that. So I feel that is an area where the hospitals in this country can do little more. This is now need to extend beyond the hospitals also. Even in the household, whether it is a school, whether it is a place where the youth is working, even if it is a hotel in which you are living, and we need to play a major role of stopping this burning this common biomedical waste or the common waste in the common place and creating the situation and do something on that. Next area where we think that we can do much more in the hospitals, what we are now realizing is our equipment, because most of the equipment we are getting from invariably from abroad, India. There is emission of the gas is high, especially when we are using anesthesia machines, where we are using a lot of gas, or the generator when we are using, or any other equipment we are using. So we are looking green card checking or green signaling, or the auditing which we have started doing in the hospital, and the carbon footprint of the hospital has been calculated, and that has been in a long way, it is going to help. Third, another area where we are now encouraging the hospital also because most of the hospital also have a cafeteria. They have to provide the food for the people. So to create this, to recommend them, and we are asking for the hospitals wherever there is a possibility, start them to start agricultural farms, or where they will be able to even create. Some of the big hospitals have started even cotton farms. The cotton from which what they get is being utilized for all their pillows and covers. So there's a sustainability with the nature. So natural sustainability project is which is being carried out. And we are also impinging upon the doctors, and what are the challenges which we are facing with the change in one of the greatest communal dichotomy, or the challenge which we know is the climate change is the greatest challenge in the healthcare. So this awareness we are creating on the doctors on that. And equally, as a small organization, especially in the Weissman, one of the two important events, as very well explained by Dr. Our Weissman Joe, that one is the kitchen garden, which especially in our region and our district, we are emphasizing on every Weissman to have a kitchen garden instead of going for and getting the purchase for other areas. So when you are creating the kitchen garden, it also serves and helps the environment to have the clean air, environment to have less carbon dioxide, because all the plants will be absorbing the more carbon dioxide. And this is a great benefit locally. The surrounding, it also serves the people to have a good nutritious food. So this kitchen garden effect, which is it's a top floor kitchen or anywhere what we are making, I feel that is one of the greatest way that we are sensitizing our people to make that is their little contribution which they are going to do, and big for the waste. It is a wonderful initiative taken by the Weissman International, where every club is interested in going and collecting the waste which is being thrown away in the streets, thrown away in the seashores and area where we are collecting and destroying that. That is the one component. The third area where we are now talking with the youth, especially we are working with the medical students and other area. And as a student, as a youth, you have a great responsibility. And we have easy calculator to calculate how much the carbon footprint you are making. It all depends upon how much electricity you are using, how much miles you are traveling, how much what is the way you are traveling. So we are now making our students, when you are using a computer, many times we the students and the youth are not, even when you are sleeping, your lights are on, your ventilation, even if there is a good ventilation, you try to put the lights, or when even there is a good ventilation, you try to put the AC and the other. So some adaptive change, the lifestyle modification has to come for the youth. How much I am going to save the community with the electricity? If you can take a decision that I will be able to reduce the electricity emission usage in my life, if I am using a hot water for taking a bath, and if you say for 3 hours, 4 hours, that is going to emit so much of more. Yes, will every time we make a flight, we need to multiply it by more than 4 hours in a flight. It has to be multiplied by 4,000 to calculate the flight. To make at least a local travel by bus. I was so happy. I'm delighted to see the team was traveling. Among the doctors, we are making it is a big way, cycling. By your car you are using, and this is a big work. We have the cycling part of it, and cycling, the opportunity need to be there. But as a youth, as a youngster, and instead of putting your interest on this something which is very attractive, creating the carbon footprint, you can do a great job.
Cannot hear you, doctor.
Personal life, I will take something to see to that my carbon footprint of the with our the generation is on. You have to be the responsible to give sure the steward of this cult nature which our God who has created and definitely we will be able to do something to
Thank you, Dr. Jalal, and you really helped us to understand. I mean, like the consequences of what's happening in the global platform, international level, like who are paying the price for the climate change. Those who have not caused the climate change are facing the challenges, and also you're challenging us to adopt a sustainable lifestyle. I think that is another thing which we need to continue to discuss. So thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause as well, a silent applause or the Zoom applause as well. Thank you, and we will come back during the Q&A. So now, quickly, can I invite our friends from YMCA Myanmar? I could see Moon is here. So can I invite Moon? And we have few more friends from YMCA Myanmar, and they also have a presentation now. So Moon, could you please turn on your video? Yes, hello Moon.
Hello. Good
Hello.
afternoon.
Good afternoon, and I'm glad that the internet is a bit stable now. We could hear you.
Yes, it's very much, but I'm happy to hear, and then it's really honor for us because we got invitation from Mr. Koshi. So thank you very much for invitation. And first of all, I would like to share a little bit about the environmental activity that the local Mitino YMC is doing. So can I screen share for a bit? So it will be very quick. And after that, there will be two students share. So they will share. So first of all, I would like to share the activities